Hey, Spencerport High School, this is Mr. Rennie. I'm here to tell you about why I never used drugs in my life and why I never will. So it actually goes back to my brother Chris. Chris Rennie is the reason why I don't use drugs. When I was a kid, Chris was a great guy. He was involved in a lot of different things in school and outside of school, and he just had a normal life. But there was some day in his life in high school where he decided he was going to start using drugs and alcohol. And I don't know why and what was the purpose for it or the reason behind it, but he started using it and it started getting out of control for him. Pot was his drug of choice, and he would get drunk oftentimes. It ended up causing havoc on my house. He ended up being the idiot of my house, my family. I looked at him and I couldn't stand what he was getting involved in. He was growing pot on the side of our lawn. He was having parties while we were gone and leaving junk around the house while we were coming back. He was stealing from my family. And it just ruined us. It ruined our family. And when he graduated high school, which fortunately he was able to do that, he got kicked out of our house. And he ended up living in a tent. He literally lived in a tent behind a restaurant that he was working at because he was not able to go to anyone else's home. Nobody wanted him living there. So he became a homeless person for a while, and he went from job to job. So I think he probably had to move that tent around. I don't know all the specifics. But I know my brother Chris, he ruined his life for many years. He ended up getting arrested for DWI and lost his license. He did not have a very successful life. I looked at him and said, man, I never want to be like him. When you look at your brother and sister, you hope that you would say, man, I want to be just like him. Or you look at your parents, you say, I want to be just like them. But for Chris, it was the complete opposite. I looked at him and said, I don't want to have anything to do with him. He's ruined his life, he's ruined our family, and I never want to do that. And therefore, I never want to use drugs, I never want to use alcohol because of my brother Chris. And that's the reason why I don't ever use drugs or alcohol. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Delonzo. I was just going to tell a quick story about how drugs have affected my life and my family. My brother, Marcus, is addicted to heroin, and he goes in and out of rehab just about every 2 months or so. And he has 3 beautiful kids that he's completely abandoned, and now has also abandoned our family and moved to Colorado to be with some really strange friends. So we're all worried about him, and basically when you do drugs, it doesn't only affect you, it affects your whole family. My cousin Joe was a heroin addict, and he has been clean for 7 months, which is really, really good if you know the drug heroin. And recently he just found out he was having a baby with his girlfriend. They were going to a wedding 2 weeks ago, and he had a nice haircut, he was clean shaven, he was excited and ready to go, and did some drugs out of celebration. And the next morning, my Aunt Jody found him dead in his room. And so that was like 2 weeks ago. And he's gone forever because of a silly choice that he hadn't made for 7 months. So just remember, when you do drugs, it doesn't matter how long you haven't done them. It could hurt you immediately, and it also hurts your family.
My experience with addiction is nothing that I've experienced, but I've never been addicted, but I remember being very close to being addicted. I had a kidney stone a few years ago, and to ease the pain, my doctor prescribed me Oxycontin. And I took it for a while, and eventually it helped, and eventually I passed my stone. And I can specifically remember the day after I passed my stone not being in any pain, but still thinking about wanting to take one of those Oxycontin. I'm very happy that I didn't. I know many people that have continued on pain medication even after the pain has subsided because of that addictive quality, and I think I was very lucky to say to myself, no, don't go get that when I didn't need it. And before that happened, before I experienced that, I had always questioned why people can't stop smoking, or why people can't stop drinking, or why people can't stop doing drugs and just stop. And I wasn't totally convinced about addiction, but that was really the first time in my life where I personally experienced the urge to do something that I knew I shouldn't do, and my body was telling me something different than my mind was telling me. And it definitely opened my eyes to what addiction can really be if people do get stuck in that vicious pattern.
I will talk about my brother. His name is Adi, and he was the brightest person you can ever think of. He won every scholarship possible, and when he finished high school, he won a scholarship to France to study atomic energy. Unfortunately, when he got there, he got involved in drugs, and he lost his scholarship, got deported from France to Morocco, and since then we have been taking care of him, my family, paying his bills and taking care of his wife and his son. And this is the comparison of before and after. So please don't do drugs. They will ruin your life.
The reason I choose to stay away from addiction is because when I was 17 years old and a senior in high school, my best friend and I were driving home late at night and we got hit by a drunk driver. Our car flipped over 3 times and we landed upside down on the side of the road and the other driver drove away. Luckily, we both were completely fine, thank goodness for seatbelts and for first responders, but that's the reason why I chose not to use and to stay drug-free.